Well, I appreciate you for allowing me here at your farm today
No, thank
and
you.
coming and interviewing you. Um, Wait for the plane to pass for a
Yeah,
second.
yeah.
But what you're doing here is amazing. I know you do a lot of cultural awareness with your radio station, and you have a farm, a lot of land
Hmm.
conservation, and a lot of different projects going on.
Yeah.
Um, so I appreciate you meeting me here today. If you want to give an introduction, that would be nice.
Well, first, I want to thank you, your family, and for coming out. I think we really appreciate it. It means a lot. So thank you. So I'm Omeatl, and it's been the work of my life. I think now 30 plus years working on doing as much as I can. Uh, Started with political organizations. I joined an organization about in like 1997, 96, called the Mexica Movement. And they were an organization I was happy to be a part of, and kind of political awareness, cultural awareness. Um, they were instilled a lot of discipline. So, but through the process, it was agriculture, astronomy, architecture, but always with a land base. Kind of trying to figure how to preserve our lands and get our lands back. And so being what they call undocumented made that part a little bit more difficult for me. But it was just a bump. It was just another hurdle just to get over, and then you know managed to do it with a group of families. We came together and purchased land as a community to create sustainable living, and get more people interested in alternative ways of regaining our identity and who we are, um, and kind of steer away, not because of against, but just as to create different models of steer away from the nonprofit sector, and how could we do things autonomously, you know, as a people, with our own effort, with our own work, without grants or loans or nonprofits, or because of the situation we were in of being undocumented, we couldn't get grants, we couldn't get loans, we couldn't get a bank, we couldn't get a driver's license, social security numbers, no. So all we were left with was our own abilities. So we all came together and said, we could do this, and that's kind of what led to it. So
So, what age did you come over undocumented?
5 years old.
Okay.
Yeah, I was 5 years old, and
What was that journey like?
you know what I remember. Yeah, I was 5 years old. Honestly, I didn't know what was going on at the time. I just remember leaving the little town I was from. I had never seen a car. I had never seen. I remember the first time I saw a car, and I was like, "What the heck is this thing?" And I saw a person inside of it. I was like, "What?" It was just. I just remember it was very shocking to me to see a car, but I didn't know what it was. So the journey was just, all right, we're leaving, and you're 5 years old. You don't know where you're going. You don't. They just adults are just taking you. And crossing what I think is the Rio Colorado in Texas, New Mexico area, and the reason I think it was that river is because I remember just my feet getting wet from my knees down,
Hmm.
and I imagine, and I was on my mom's shoulders, so the water must have been like almost neck high to her, and I was on her shoulders, and so I couldn't swim, so it
She must be pretty badass.
yeah, she must. Yeah, she was, man. She was a tough lady. And then next thing you know, I'm living in East LA. You this big city, coming from a ranch. A little town of, not even a town. It was just a few houses in the middle of the Michoacan kind of landscape. And then next thing you know, I'm living in East LA, cars and freeways, and it was just a big shock.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then when I was 7, we moved up north to the San Joaquin Valley, Fresno area, and I went to work with my mom. So picking grapes and pepinos and all this stuff, right? And immigration used to show up, and the cops would show up, and we'd be getting like pe- um, pesticide sprayed while we were picking. And it's most people think it's a liquid, but it's a powder. And so you come out with this white powder all over you of the pesticides that they would spray on you. And
They're spraying it while you're picking.
while we're picking, yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And then the UFW would show up, and they would call immigration on us. So UFW would call the cops. They'd call immigration because they're an American union to protect American jobs. So the undocumented had no choice but to cross their picket lines, right? And we couldn't be part of their unions either. So, and it's well documented, that the UFW were never for the undocumented, at least not then.
UFW, that's the United Farm Workers.
United Farm Workers, who Cesar Chavez was part of, or was one of the leaders in, and along with Dolores Huerta. But they persecuted undocumented people all the time. I was there, and we'd run. Like we saw the UFW, we were more scared of them than the cops, because they were our people, So
why do you think they were so hostile against immigrants?
Well, it's because they're an American union organization, so to protect American jobs. So the undocumented were taking, quote unquote, the same language
Like in
today.
South Park, they're like,
Yeah.
That's that's the UFW?
Yeah, it's like that.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and so it was tough, and my mom died of valley fever, which is something that a lot of people that are working in the fields get. So I'd go to school sometimes, and then sometimes I wouldn't because I had to go work with my mom to make enough money. She's a mom with 6 kids, so I was the oldest. At the time, we had 4 kids. She had 4 kids, and she ended up dying from valley fever when I was 11, and she left behind 6 kids. My sister and I, who had a different father, we came to live here back to East LA. And my other 4 siblings, their dad picked them up and moved them to the Bay Area. And then about 7 years passed, I didn't see my siblings. So, but when we moved here, we moved in the 90s, 1991. It was the peak of the violence and everything that was happening all over East LA, Boyle Heights. And I started thinking this can't be a coincidence that up there we're being exploited, down here we're being exploited. This has to be systematic. There's no way this is a coincidence. Like everywhere I go, my community is being taken advantage of, exploited, persecuted, ignored.
And when you're talking about my community, are you saying specifically in the indigenous community that is migrating, or just brown people in general?
Brown people in general, because that's what I saw. Then it was just like all brown people. It didn't. So there was no real distinction between, Central Americans, Peruvians, Mexicans. It was just like I just saw it endemic to our communities.
Right now, we can know now based off of statistics that most of these migrants are indigenous people.
Yes,
but
exactly.
back then we're not seeing that.
Right.
And then a lot of the people, when they see immigrants come in, they're not even distincting one from another.
Yep. And a lot of times, just like a lot of communities that come into a society in which they don't have the upper hand in language and societal norms and all that, they then adapt themselves to the dominant culture, right? So the abandonment of traditional ways, the abandonment of the language and all these things. So kind of to survive, right? And so the majority of people that come here to, they leave for us and for a lot of people. A lot of times migrants leave where they're from to the place that created the problem of why they left, right? So during Reagan and everything that they were doing, the Contras and the NAFTA and all those things that were happening at the time created